Pastor Jim Taylor here from sunny Kunsan in South Korea, and I was asked about a Christian cliche today. And someone said, here's a good one for your questions answered. What do you think about this Christian cliche? I remembered that in the past I did some Christian cliches, so I went back to look at that, and lo and behold, the one he asked me about was actually there. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to comment on about 8 different Christian cliches. I'm going to tack a couple more at the end. It'll probably come in like 10 or 11. But anyway, Christian cliches that I think that we need to be very careful how we use as Christians. In fact, some of them, I use a lot of idioms and stuff, but I think we need to be very careful when we're passing on cliches as being, divine truth. And so I'll just go ahead and comment on those. Now, sometimes I wonder, where do these cliches start? For example, you've got let go and let God. Now, if the original intent was let go of your sin and let God save you, I'm all about that. That's great, But if you happen to be hanging off the edge of a cliff and you're hanging on by just one hand and, you can't get up, and somebody comes along and says let go and let God, maybe not such a good idea. So as you can see, these Christian cliches, you've got to be careful with them. You can see them in 2 different ways. So anyway, so you could probably entitle this video 8 Christian cliches that we need to be very careful how we use, with 2 or 3 tacked on at the end. Okay, so the first one is God works in mysterious ways. That's partly true. Sometimes God very obviously works in mysterious ways, and he does things that we don't understand, and the Bible tells us that. In Isaiah 55 verses 8 and 9, it says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." So yes, sometimes God works in mysterious ways, but after being a Christian for 38 years now, I think it is 38, 39 years, somewhere around there, I find that it's also true that God has given natural laws, natural principles that, are at work in the world, like gravity and, things of that nature. And I find that God has most often in my life used his natural laws far more often than he does his supernatural intervention of those laws. I've never seen the parting of the Red Sea, or, I've never seen water turn to blood or anything like that. So usually God works, at least in my life, in very natural ways. Now, I don't usually know what or how he's doing things. He doesn't always tell people this stuff, He's God. He can do what he wants. But just to say that God works in mysterious ways, I think we need to be careful with that, because he doesn't always work in mysterious ways. All right, number 2. Where God guides, he provides. That's true. That's a really good cliche, if you could call it that. But what we need to remember is the key is knowing that God is guiding. Stepping out in obedience is a big factor at this. At the same time, sometimes we look at our provisions and say, well, obviously this is what God wants, because look at what he's given us in order to do this, For example, maybe you're a pastor, or you're on church staff, or you're the church treasurer, and you realize that the church has been able to save up, $400,000 or $500,000, and so you go to the pastor and say, I believe that God is leading us to build a new building. And the pastor says, well, what would make you think that? Well, look at all that he's given us. That may or may not be the truth. So where God guides, he provides. That's true, but God guides first. Okay, and keep that in mind. You got to know the will of God first. Number 3, let go and let God. That's the one I was talking about earlier. This phrase highlights a believer's need to surrender to the Lord's control, and that's a good thing. But surrendering to God's control doesn't mean inactivity. It means that we're trusting the Lord as we continue to follow the Lord and what we believe he's revealed for us in our lives. So God doesn't, have you ever noticed that God doesn't do everything for you? In my church, God doesn't change the light bulbs. He doesn't. People do that. He doesn't sweep the floor. People do that. He doesn't print the bulletins. People do that. There's a lot of things that God doesn't do. So if your idea of let go and let God means that you're going to sit back and do nothing and just trust God to take care of everything, probably not going to work out so well for you. Okay? Number 4, cleanliness is next to godliness, and I'm not sure where it got started, but I just got a sneaking suspicion it was a Christian mom talking to her son about cleaning his room. That's just my feeling. Okay, so first of all, it's good to be clean. I personally don't like to be around people that aren't. It's good for us to focus on the little details, but don't forget at the same time, don't forget what Jesus said in Matthew 23 verses 25 and 26. He said, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also." So cleanliness is next to godliness. Doesn't mean you clean the outside only. The inside is what God is most concerned with. And like I said, it's good to be clean. I don't like to go to a dirty restaurant. I don't like to be in enclosed rooms with no air circulation with people who don't brush their teeth. But you don't become godly by using soap and water, okay? You become godly by getting saved and then growing in God's grace through obedience and through trust. Number 5, God helps those who help themselves. You may already know that came from Ben Franklin. And if you think about it, it sounds almost like the opposite of let go and let God. With let go and let God, it's almost like let go and let God. We don't do anything. God does it all. And then you've got, God helps those that helps themselves. So I'm doing everything, and then, when I can't handle it, God will jump in there and finish the job, So it sounds kind of like the opposite there. The truth is, God helps those who realize that they are helpless. Okay? But I get it. I get the idiom. The point is, don't sit around and expect that the Lord is going to do everything for you. He gave you a brain, He gave you a body, and He expects you to use them. I get it. I understand that. Okay? So, now, moving on to number 6. When God closes a door, He opens a window. I don't know who thought of that one, but really, when you think about it, people like that one. When God closes a door, He opens a window. And I'm like, that is the dumbest saying in the world. Why don't people even say things like that, First of all, God closing a door and opening a window. Why don't you just say if God stops you from doing one thing, then He'll tell you to do something else? But, that's not always true. The fact is, God doesn't always want us to take any action at all. Sometimes He doesn't want us to do anything. Sometimes He wants us to continue doing what we're doing. He's not trying to, direct you to something else because you're right where He wants you and you're doing what He wants you to do now. So, what I like to say? What I like to say is, just keep doing what God told you to do. And if He wants you to do something else, He'll let you know. All right? So when God closes the door and opens the window, it's not one that I use, probably not one that I'll ever use. I say that, and then Sunday some Freudian slip, and I'll end up saying something in a sermon or something. Number 7, you can't outgive God. I think, when I hear this one, it's usually coming from some preacher who's standing in the pulpit trying to get their people to give more money. All right? So let me first begin by saying, yes, it's a biblical principle. Luke chapter 6, verse 38 says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that you meet withal, it shall be measured to you again." But I see a danger in, the way that it's usually used, okay? The idea there in the way that it's usually used is if I give to the Lord, then He's going to give me more. That to me sounds like the prosperity gospel, okay? I'm sorry. It just does, okay? Nobody ever gave more than Jesus. Jesus gave everything. He gave everything He was, everything He had. He gave His life. He gave His blood. He gave everything. But you know what Jesus said? In Luke chapter 9, it says, "And it came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto Him, Lord, I will follow Thee whithersoever Thou goest." And here's what Jesus' answer in verse 58. "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay His head." It really all comes down to the motive of the heart, okay? You're giving, it's a motive of the heart. So, you can't outgive God, so I'm going to give God $100 so He can give me back 105. If that's your motive, that's probably not going to work out so well for you. Number 8, God said it, I believe it, that settles it. I saw that on a bumper sticker, you've probably seen it too, a number of times on bumper stickers, One time I saw a bumper sticker and it said, "God said it and that settles it whether you believe it or not." I like that one. That's probably more applicable to the society of faithlessness that we live in today. But having said that, the next time you desire to say, "God said it, I believe it, and that settles it," make sure what you're referring to is actually what God said and not what you think God said. There's a lot of people that make that mistake. And so that was number 8. And I'd like to point out some other things about Christian cliches here. So this is where I'm going to tack on some things at the end. And I'll kind of roll them up into one, I guess you'd say. But, when I was a young Christian, I would, have questions about something or, struggling with something or another. And I'd talk to an older Christian and I'd say, "Hey, what about this or what about that?" And I found that a lot of times people just look at me and say, "Well, you just got to trust God with it, brother. Just trust the Lord." Or, "God knows what he's doing." And my all-time favorite, and this is the one that when I heard it, I was like, "Really? Did you just say that?" But, he or she has gone to a better place. Look, I know you mean well, but remember, young believers, they want to trust God, but they don't know exactly what that means or how to apply the concept. So rather than just saying, "Just trust God, brother," give them something practical so they can understand what that means. Or, God knows what he's doing. That's great. God knows what he's doing. But right now I'm confused. So can you give me some scripture and some guidelines and help me to understand that? And the one that I think that is just totally useless, and I hope you don't say this, but she's gone to a better place. When my mom died, somebody said that to me. And, when they said that, it didn't help me at all. It really didn't. Knowing that I'm not going to see her until I go to a better place doesn't make the pain go away. All right? It doesn't go, "Oh, I did. Oh, thank you so much. I didn't think of that." It didn't help. The best thing you can do is just, give them a hug and let them cry on your shoulder. And, when people lose the loved one, they don't need your theology. They need your love. Okay? They don't need your prowess or Bible, ability. What they need is for somebody who can empathize with them because they're hurting. They're going through pain. Look it up. People in the Bible mourn. All right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's a natural process that God gave us to do that. So there you have it. There were 8 plus 3, I think. 8 Christian cliches plus 3 more that I think that Christians need to be very careful with how they use. And, there's a couple of them in there that you probably just don't need to use at all. So I'll leave you with that. This is Pastor Jim Taylor. Have a great week, and I hope that this week you'll be found walking in the reality of God's presence. God bless you.